we may have a prominent position that we play, we've all touched every element, in hip-hop, and you wouldn't be about your salt if you weren't. I'm not the best graph artist in the world, but, I can tag up a side of a building. I've done it. I don't want to incriminate myself. Let me be quiet. But yeah, I ain't gonna self-snitching like they be doing on Instagram. But I just want to introduce, this next person on our panel, who he goes back to, the beginnings of hip hop as well. And what he's done, for so many years is he's influenced the culture in such a strong way. And a lot of times our graffiti artists don't get the recognition that they deserve, because you might just see a little scribble in the corner or something like that that indicates their name. But I'd like to introduce my man right here, OG Hex, man. Tell him your story.
1, 2. It's a pleasure being here in the University of South Central. And so much has changed from what we were born into. I'm very grateful to be up here with my brothers and sisters. An honor to have CLI-N-TEL ask me to speak today. And my little Nayeli, who's my assistant, and Sister Silky D in the house, who lent the equipment to the original radio as well back in the day. She was lending all kinds of stuff to that club. I want to say that the 1960s were tumultuous. There was all kinds of racial partitions and divisions and segregations and a lot of geographical changes. During the 40s and 50s, a lot of the projects, the 3 main projects in the Watts were made for workers that worked in the harbor, workers that were building and bringing supplies in from Angels Gate to build downtown. There was so much happening in terms of changes, a lot of imports that were coming in from the railroads as well as from the ocean. A lot of partitioning of races as well, the Chinese, the Asians, the Mexicans, a lot of Central Americans, a lot of African Americans moving in from other states as well into Los Angeles. There was all kinds of schisms that were happening. During the Johnson administration, during the 60s as well, Nixon, during that time there was the assassination of a lot of the main leaders that people were looking up to. John F. Kennedy shocked people. They still remember where they were at when you speak to that grandmother, that grandpa. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., what in the world just happened? This was such a great leader, such a great man, such a voice for the people. Malcolm X, Robert Kennedy here at the Ambassador Hotel. It was just the people that was bringing hope to those that were not born with a golden diamond ruby studded spoon in their mouth, but those that had to scrape and figure out what their next meal was going to be. These people that were representing the that were representing the downtrodden, that were representing the poor, that were representing those without an identity, were getting shot and killed. Johnson sent all kinds of people to Vietnam to fight a war that people, what are we doing halfway across the world? What? And they were sending blacks, and they were sending Hispanics. My father was here working the labor unions in the Garment District, Los Angeles. Sure enough, they sent him. They were sending mainly the minorities of all of the major cities of the United States to go fight a war, and the rich, the son of the rich, were the last to go. In that chaos, the Watts riots, the Brown Berets, the Hispanics were fighting in East LA. They were arresting, police brutality. As a little kid, I would see cops beat down women and children and guys my color, guys his color, and slam their heads on the police the cop cars on the back, you know, all tasseled and hassled and bedazzled. So in that chaos, they started coming back not to a hero's award, but to, man, you're a bunch of baby killers, man. You're a bunch of no goods. You're a bunch of nothing. So here are people that are already stepped on, going to fight for the government, coming back to LA, and they're mistreated even worse because they went to go kill people that they didn't want to go kill in the first place. To represent a nation that is supposed to be all of us together, helping each other move on to the next step. In that, people started screaming out, I am someone. I have an identity. All of a sudden in Watts, you start seeing portraits going up. You know, African-American muralists putting up pictures of African-Americans on walls. In downtown LA, you see the phantom shadow of Joey Krebs putting up big shadows and saying, we mean something, we represent something. East LA, Estrada Courts, we are a minority. All of a sudden you start seeing the people screaming out, saying we are important, we mean something. And that is where the Long Beach Pike, all of the bikers, a lot of the guys that came, white guys and Hispanics, and they started going down to Long Beach and getting tattoos and riding their bikes. And that's where I first saw the first colors that were vivid on people's skins. When we saw what happened with the New York subway photos that were coming in, we were already doing gang graffiti, you know, for different territories. We are here, we are there. This is our hood. When I saw the colors that came off of those New York subway trains, I said, man, this is something different. The Sugar Hill Gang record, bam, you start seeing graffiti, the Duck Rock letters on the Malcolm McLaren album. I was, man, that's that New York kind of graffiti. And I started going out at 10 years old in the middle of the night to the factories, running down Compton, the factories in Southgate, the factories in Paramount, the factories in Inglewood, painting, made up a name. My name is Hector. I'm gonna call myself Hex. I started painting Hex. I mean something, colors, big, giant DJs and lettering and going out in the middle of the night with these huge visions that I felt like I was gonna explode unless I painted. And it just kept going and going and going and going. We built and built. All of a sudden, helicopters are chasing me. I'm hiding under cars, painting trains. I'm covered in 5 inches of grease all up in my clothes. There's all kinds of opposition to say that, look, I might not have all the money. I might not be able to attend a university, a rich art school, somewhere prestigious. But guess what? I have a voice. I mean something. In hip hop, to be able to say, I mean something. Look at the murals I can do with a can, a spray can that was never meant to paint a mural. A spray can was invented to paint a bicycle, and hey, Margaret, bring me that. I'm gonna paint the little kitchen sink. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, we're taking paint from wherever we could find it to paint masterpieces in the middle of the night that were not legal, saying, this is hip hop, this is Los Angeles, this is Long Beach, this is Watts, this is South Central, this is East LA, man. We are alive in the world, and this is who I am. I'm a b-boy, I'm an MC, I'm a DJ, I'm a graffiti writer. Throughout the years, the same colleges that used to laugh me to scorn and kick me out are now inviting me to go speak in Switzerland. They're inviting me to Japan. They're inviting me to Brazil. I was like, what are you talking about? They used to make fun of us, man.
We have actually a sample of your work that we want to play. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you could.
Yeah, we're gonna play a little bit of my man's work here.
And this was all spray paint. My name is Mr. Hector Rios, alternatives.org. I work with kids out of all the juvenile halls in Los Angeles on the streets. Since 1982, I've written Hex TGO. All these pieces were done with spray paint. There was me in 83, 86, 85. We started taking letters and forming them. It says Hex TGO. That's the size of the wall. Those are letters. It says Hex TGO. Another wall in Lincoln Heights. That's the avenues in an alley. We transformed it into a hip-hop masterpiece. Here's a commentary lifting up our daughters and our wives and our sisters. There's me painting the alleys in Compton and Linwood. Jackets. Those are b-boy jackets that I did using what I learned on the street. That was the first hip-hop shop that I owned in 1990, 5 years after the Radiotron closed down. Those are shirts, clothing companies that I've owned. Characters that I've done for animation as well. Kid Frost's album, I did his album cover, I did his portrait for the videos. La Raza. Yeah, all of them. The Radiotron, Hex, TGO. So we took whatever we could find and we built what we could build. This is in Switzerland when I combated out there, all the graffiti writers out there representing Los Angeles. Those are different letters that we did, a bus. Those are all characters and styles that were born within hip hop. It was nothing that I learned in a school. That's a style of characters that I invented that went all over the world. And it was duplicated in all the countries imaginable. Those are old school fat cap jams that we did, renting different high schools, bringing rappers and break dancers, b-boys, poppers, lockers. That was painting in the middle of the night in downtown LA. There's an octopus with 951 gazelles and spray cans. Comic book stores will say, man, you paint? Come and paint my store. So I'd be out there with spray cans. If an ape had a man's mind, what would he do? Taking mushrooms, inanimate objects, and giving them life within the graffiti community. LA Pit Bulls. There's our city, Los Angeles. I built this with pure wood for a basketball court for kids in juvenile hall. Leprechauns. So this style I developed from the streets. This was the Persian Gulf War. I did Saddam Hussein playing chess with George Bush. This was an aircraft carrier for the Navy that hired me to paint. This was done with spray paint. All spray paint with tips that I invented by cutting things out. This was Obama before he became president. I said, man, he's gonna be president. I don't know how, but he's gonna be. Just the way all of us became something when everyone said you will become nothing. You do not deserve to be in my school. You do not deserve to be in my place, in my prestigious hall. That's what I did with spray paint. This was Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in Hollywood, standing on a plank with spray cans. I did all of those. There's Bruce Lee fighting his way out of South Central. Here's Rosa Parks, our beloved mother who's brave enough to stand up for what she believed in. Whales in spray paint. So I did hundreds and hundreds. Here's respectable Doctors, Kings. Both of them were incredible. There's Dr. King. I painted several portraits and murals of him, representing the people, Che Guevara. So all of this was born in the streets of Los Angeles with everyone opposed to me doing it. With everyone saying, you're not going to become anything. But hip-hop saying, you're one of us. And you give to us, we give to you, and you're going to change the world with whatever's in your hand. And you know, Clientele, we're still here, my brother.
Still here.
We're still here.
Still here.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Clientele.
All right,
Let's
thank
move
you.
on to the next speaker.
Wow. You know, we're not worthy, man. I mean, that's some amazing stuff. And every aspect of what Chris is doing and what you know, you've seen Hex doing so far is all about expression,